President Trump's executive orders on Obamacare threatened to spike premiums and throw healthcare markets into jeopardy. And now the bipartisan leaders of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, Republican Lamar Alexander and Democrat Patty Murray, are nearing an agreement on a compromise. Under the framework, the deal likely will fund Affordable Care Act subsidies through 2019, let people aged 30 and over buy catastrophic coverage plans, put $106 million back into promoting Obamacare enrollment, and make it easier for states to get ACA waivers while allowing interstate compacts for purchases, getting rid of the so-called lines. President Trump yesterday seemed to welcome the bipartisanship, but the White House legislative director said the president was absolutely not endorsing the deal. Joining us now, member of the Homeland Security Committee and chairman of the Republican Study Committee, Congressman Mark Walker of North Carolina. Congressman, good morning. Good to see you. What's your take on this idea that came up between Senators Alexander and Murray? Would it pass through the House?
I don't know that it would. It's certainly a concern of ours. We want to see more of it, but it is something that I believe, to use Senator Alexander's quote, that we have an emerging, encouraging consensus. And if that's not Washington's speech, I don't know what is. And we've also seen Chuck Schumer say that he was pleased with the agreement. So those are some caution flags. There may be some look from a temporary standpoint, but once again, it's important to remember that these CSRs have been ruled illegal before. The House sued in 2016, and these bailouts continue to fund up and prop up the insurance companies. Listen, people are hurting under Obamacare. The insurance companies are not.
Well, Alexander Murray would prop up these CSRs for a couple of years anyway. So does that mean you're patently against Alexander Murray right now?
Well, I don't know if I would say patently against, but we would be maybe strongly against at this point. We have major concerns of what Obamacare continues to do, not just people in North Carolina, but across the country.
So, Congressman, just over here, what would you be for? How do we ensure that if Obamacare is pushed to the side, there will be a replacement that won't leave millions of Americans without insurance?
Well, I believe what we've worked on in the House is certainly a compromise that we feel like that does offer people more opportunities and more choices. 2 days ago, even before we knew that we were going on your program, I heard from a Mr. Silknitter in North Carolina who has cancer. And not just to create another sad story, but his premiums are getting ready to go $1,500 to $3,000. There are people that have been hurting. I understand that. There's also people struggling under the increased premiums, an average of $3,700 people in the individual market here in North Carolina.
So, Congressman, other than a few, probably not more than a few, lobbyists in Washington, nobody I know likes the insurance companies. But without this occurring to prop up the insurance companies in terms of helping people of lower incomes get health care, what happens to those people? You just referenced, you know, the hurt, the poor. What happens to them?
Well, I believe if we need to look at some kind of temporary proposal, we can. But at which point do we understand or ask the question, how many different organizations or companies or markets does Congress play in? With Washington picking these winners and losers as far as where these checks should be directly cut, even directly, in this case, to the insurance companies, at which line do we draw the line to say, you know what, we can't continue to fund this? We're running at a $700 billion deficit per year. It's not that we're not compassionate. I was a former pastor for 18 years. I've been hearing some of the heartache even earlier in your show and some of the things that we've talked about. But we've also have to make sure that we're being good stewards with the taxpayers' dollar.
Peggy?
Hi, Congressman. Good morning. Peggy Noonan here.
Good morning.
I'm just curious, when you talk about this, my sense of health care, of various health care replacements and bills, et cetera, these issues obsess Americans and it's something on their minds, and yet nobody ever knows what we're talking about. When we talk about these phrases about CSRs and bailouts and percentages of the give back that might come partially from the state and the Fed, maybe the county, do you find it almost impossible to talk clearly to your constituents in a way that they understand about health care? I mean, do you all have it straight? I must admit, I watch TV every day. I get confused every time health care comes up.
Peggy, that's a great question. Sometimes we've got to get beyond the talking points It's hard to break it down. There are complications within 5 minutes. There's an individual side, there's a small business side, and remembering even President Clinton last year who said, listen, Obamacare, I think he used the word killing or crushing small businesses. Those are things that we have to counter with these individual mandates, with these employer mandates. There are factors that go beyond just the individuality of this, and it is complex. I'm not making the case that the healthcare system 8.5, 9 years ago was in a good place, but we can also make a strong case that Obamacare has not been the solution.
Congressman Mark Walker of North Carolina, appreciate your time this morning. Thank you.
My privilege. Thank you.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.